Keynote is Apple's version of a presentation tool. It's free. It comes with your Mac. Hi, Elizabeth. And we're going to
Hi.
take a look at that today. So what I usually like to do is go through about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll give you a little orientation. We'll pause for some questions. We have a smaller group today because of the US Thanksgiving holiday, I think. But we'll go into a little bit more. But I want to get you familiar at least to where you feel comfortable opening it up, creating a presentation, and then sharing it. And how you do things in the presentation take a lot, are very flexible, because the advantage with Keynote is that it's integrated with everything on your Apple device, like your photos and other applications as well. So we'll take a look at that. Now, I've set up my screen, so I'm going to share my whole screen because I need to show you menus as I go with it too. I'd like to ask you all to put yourself on mute. When I open up for questions, we can all unmute and then ask questions as we go through that. But it makes it easier for me to edit this for YouTube, because I don't include all the Q&A when I do the YouTube. I cut that out, but on the Tech Explorer community, I put that up there. So I'm going to mute everybody that here. I'm going to change my view to a spotlight, so I'm the only person on camera here when we record, and I'm going to share my entire desktop with you. So you're going to see us here as well as the desktop. And so what I want to do is I want to share my desktop. You should see my whole screen now. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my dock. And most of the time you'll see this Keynote icon in the dock. If you don't, you can always go here to the Launchpad. So starting up Keynote, Keynote's pre-installed on a Mac. It's pre-installed on an iPad. You might have to download it from the App Store, but it's free to download. You might have to download it for an iPhone, but it actually works on all three devices, and it's free to use with your and doesn't cost anything. So we're going to take a look at Mac today. So if I click on Keynote here, it opens up the application. Okay. And there it is. And it opens up the application to what's called the Finder window of Keynote. So what we're looking at is a version of Finder that is already selected Keynote. Now you'll see that there's a Keynote folder in iCloud that's selected. That's where your Keynote presentations are automatically saved. And if you want to open up another one, you can see a list of folders that you have here, that you might have something, and you'll see some that are in the cloud, that are stored in the cloud that you can download. And when you click to open it, it'll download it. Or you can start a new document here in the lower left-hand corner. So when you launch Keynote on a Mac, it'll bring up this Finder window, and you just need to click on New Document, and it's going to open up the choice of a theme. Now you can create themes if you want to, but they have a whole selection of themes that you can pick, from minimalist light, classic white. You can see there's a little difference here in the types of fonts that are used, in the background text, in other things. They have them broken down into bold and editorial. So if you're not sure where to get started with a presentation, a theme is a good way to start with one. And I've saved some custom themes here as I've created them. One thing you can do when you work with a presentation, you can save it as a theme as opposed to simply a presentation. So you'll also have a sidebar that shows you recent ones you might have looked at, but it organizes the themes by different types of formats and different types of topics that might be of interest to you, depending on what you might want to do. I'm a big fan of very, very minimalist types of themes. And so we're just going to select this minimalist white light. Now, there is an arrow here to the side that shows more themes that you've used, and you can scroll here and find a few others if you don't have your window open all the way. watch for these little disclosure arrows that let you slide back and forth. And you can swipe back and forth. I'm swiping back and forth with my mouse on my finger here, so you can do that as well. So we're going to click on Minimalist Light. I'm going to click on this, double click, and it's going to open it up, and it's going to give us a blank presentation. So the first slide is typically a title, and they give you room for a subtitle, and they say, here's an author and date. These are things that you can start to fill in. So we're going to fill in a presentation title. I double click in that, and I'll call it Tech Topic Class, and we'll call it something like flowers or some other type of theme, or just a new theme. So I don't have a subtitle. I don't want a subtitle. And when I move my mouse around on the screen, you'll see that there are what are called selection windows that have handles around these areas. So I actually have 3 blocks of text here. I have a tech topic class title, I have a presentation subtitle, and I have an author and date section here. So if I click here and double click, I'll type Bob Cohen, and I won't bother putting the date in. That's not really necessary for us here. Okay, and you can see on the right, there are some options that appear. This is the way you can modify things. So if I select this text here with my mouse, you'll see that on the right I have some formatting functions. There are 3 buttons here that you can activate. One is Format. That shows your format and style options. One is Animate, if you want to animate something, because Keynote has the ability to animate a shape or text. And then there is something about the entire document that we look at. So it shows the theme. You can actually even change the theme here if you want to, if you're interested in doing it. And it lets you set some playback options if you're interested in that. But most of the time, you want to make sure you're on this format option, because we have the ability to change formatting for the text, for example. We can change the color of it, or we can fill a different shape, or we can choose a lighter shape, or we can change a different design of some kind. And as we change these things, we're modifying different areas. We've modified the font here as well. So one of the great things about Macs is that we can go to Edit, and we can go to Undo, Apply Style, and we can go backwards by tapping Control or Command Z to go backwards if we want to. So now we have one slide. I'm going to take this presentation subtitle. I don't generally use subtitles, but some people might. So if I've got it selected, I can modify it and change it in any way. So I can, go to text and other arrange, but I can also hit the delete key and it will delete it. So now I just have a title and a author name on this slide. Very simple, nothing fancy. If I want to see what it looks like with a different theme, I can go to Change Theme, and I can say, well, let's go to a portfolio theme here and see what it looks like this. And it's going to change the text, the fonts, the style completely. We can go back to our primary theme, Minimalist Light, if we want to, and use that. Okay, and just choose it, it'll save it back. So even when you have selected a theme to start with, Keynote makes it really easy to switch back and forth between themes. And one of the things that makes Keynote a little different than PowerPoint is the fact that they tend to have a little more artistically designed themes than what you might find in PowerPoint with the standard version from Microsoft. But there are a lot of options. There are a lot of things that you can do with any theme, and the theme is a starting point to do it. So let's take a look at some of the other things that are going on here. I've got an untitled name here. And so if I go to File and I go to save, it's going to ask me to give it a name, and I'll call it Tech Topic Class Slides. And you can see Keynote is selected in iCloud. And if I click on save, it's now going to be saved in iCloud automatically. Just for fun, let's take a look at Finder and see what's going on here. When you go to Finder, you see iCloud up here in the sidebar, and you'll see a list of everything you have in iCloud. And if you're looking for this presentation, it's not going to show up in the standard folders. It's going to show up in the Keynote folder. And you can see that here is our most recent one, Tech Topics Class Slides. So when you go to look for something in Finder to find a presentation that you've done in Keynote, and it also works the same way with anything you've created in Pages and anything you've created in Numbers, you'll find it under iCloud Drive, and in the Keynote folder in iCloud Drive is where it's located. And when you open up Keynote, it'll keep track of files you've worked with recently. So that's something to keep in mind. We've got a big menu across the top here. And these are some typical commands: file, save, or file, share or export to. You can export a Keynote presentation to PowerPoint, and it's a pretty good quality export. You can also export it as a PDF or a movie, for example, if you want to record it. And there's ways you can set passwords for it, but typically you're going to be using file, new, or file, open, recent, and it'll give you a list of recent ones you've worked with. Editing gives you the ability to edit the text. You have text editors in here. You can insert things, and we're going to take a look at this. You can go to slide, and you can create a new slide here if you want to. You can format different things in the slide. You can arrange and distribute objects. We'll talk a little bit about what an object is. Anything you put in a slide, even if it's a block of text, is considered an object. And all objects are independent of each other on a slide, and they can be aligned with each other as well. You have different ways you can view your slides and play it as a show. You can play it back and rehearse it. And then there's a help function up here as well. Now you've also got some icons here that make it quick for you to find things if you're interested in doing them. You've got the ability to add a slide right here, and it gives you some templates to work with. This is the same template, but these are layouts. So if we wanted a layout that was just a title, or a layout that had a title and bullets, or a layout that just had a title and a photo, or a layout that had a title with some alternate photo, or something with bullets. So you have the ability to select a specific layout, including a blank one, or just one that will let you go with a photo. And the most common one that people typically go with is a title and bullets, because they might say, I'm going to say sample topics, and we'll click in subtitle here, and we'll say, these are a few items on our list today. And then we click on slide bullet text. We're going to create a slide bullet. We're going to talk about saving. We're going to talk about playing. We're going to talk about formats. We're going to talk about themes. We're going to talk about shapes. We're going to talk about inserting. And so it lets you create a slide very quickly. So now we've got 2 slides in our presentation. All right, now I can change the layout of the slide if I want to. And I can change by going to format, and I have the ability to change the layout if I choose to, but I also have the ability to add another slide, and we'll create another slide. And let's try one that's a title and photo. So here's one that's already have a background photo set for us, just a placeholder. So if we wanted to make our title Keynote Basics, and we don't need a subtitle, we'll eliminate and click on author and date. But if I go to this little icon in the lower right here, this is an icon that Apple uses frequently when you want to change something. So if I click on this, it brings up my Finder window, and I can go to things like photos here, and I can go to things like a stock photo, and I can find a photo that I could use here in my list of photos that I have in my files. So I'm going to take a good one. I've got some backgrounds that I saved here from office backgrounds, and we'll take a white desk background just for a theme, and we'll insert it. And it's going to change the background of the entire slide. So we have the ability to modify it very, very quickly because the slide option said this is a title with an image. That we can just choose the image. You've got some ability to alter the image styles. We're on the format button here. So if you see the buttons here, you can format it in different ways. You can make it change the opacity. You can give it a reflective, you can give it a border, you can give it a style, and they have some pre-formatted styles. They may not make much sense if the image is being used for the entire background, but you can modify it. And if you want to replace the image, just look at the menu here. You'll see image, replace, and you can adjust it if you want to replace it with another image. We'll try a replacement. We'll go to an auditorium background here, select that, and if I select the insert, it's going to replace the background here. Now, see, that doesn't work too well with the text showing up in the background, so I'll go back to the one I was using because it's a clear background and the text is dark and it will show up easier here. Now, let's add another slide. Let's take a slide with a bullets and a photo here, and we have a slide title. It's already formatted. Sample bullets. And I'm going to erase the slide title by clicking on and say, okay, we'll take a look at photo, images, drawings, can all be inserted. A format. And so now I select the right-hand side and I've got this little icon here that allows me to select a photo. I'm going to go back to my stock photos library here, and I've got some videos and photos that I can use here. So let's try something called advanced search that I used for a class article that I wrote, and it'll bring up a photo here. So it's going to make the photo pretty big. If you're enlarging the photo, it may not come out very clear. So we want to make sure we have a photo that is actually going to be working pretty well. Now, one of the things about Apple is that in addition to giving you access to Finder photos, you can get to your photo library on your Mac. And I was at Bolsa Chica beach here, and I'm going to take this image here and see if I can insert that I took on a hike, and that looks a lot better. It's a higher quality image. So when you select it, you have the ability to do those things. Now, if I wanted to, I could still insert something else. So let's try inserting a shape here. Okay, so I can go to the insert menu and select shape, or I can go to the shape icon along here and I can select a shape. And I'd like to kind of highlight where these birds are and maybe use an arrow, big arrow here to point out that. So it inserted a shape. I'm going to move it by clicking on it and dragging it over here. I can make it larger if I want to, and make it longer, and I can change the color so it stands out. So now I have a title, I have some bullets, I have a photo, and I have some an arrow here that I can use as well. And arrows can be moved around and resized and formatted in a variety of different ways. And you can click on the photo and modify that if you want to move that as well. Whenever you click on something, you have the ability to modify it and change it and move it around in some way. And so those are some options that are available to you. And you'll also sometimes see little arrows popping up, tells you the size of something so you can deal with it and maximize it. So it's another way to do it. And so this is a photo with diagrams. If I don't like that arrow, I can select it and hit delete, and it will remove the arrow for me. Now, one other thing I want to show you, let's start with a blank slide. PowerPoint and Keynote and slides are often really good for creating diagrams of things. And so if we want to create a diagram, we can start with a shape here, and we can change it. I'm going to change the color, make it a little bit more interesting here. And if I use the right click or the selection on it, and I want to copy it, I can copy it, or I can just duplicate it. So I want to duplicate a shape here, and I'm going to change the color. I'm going to right click on it, duplicate it again, move it over here. I'm going to try inserting another shape here, an arrow. If I insert that arrow, I can do that. I can make it a little bit larger, and I can change the color here by looking at a style or going to the color fill, and I can select a different color fill if I want to by clicking on this little color window here, and it has colors that are kind of associated with the theme. And then I can insert other shapes. Now, they have a lot of shapes. They have geometry shapes, they have objects, they have animals, they have nature, they have food, they have symbols, they have education shapes. So if I wanted to insert a book here, I just have to do that, and it puts it in the center, and I can move it around. You'll see when I move these objects around, sometimes a line will appear that lets me know things are in alignment, but I don't have to. I can move them. I can just have them set up like this. Then what I do is I can select all of these objects by holding down the Shift key and clicking on them. Then what I can do is I can go to Arrange, and if I select Align Objects, it'll give me the ability to align the objects based on the top or middle or right. So let's take top. It moves them all to the top. Well, that's not quite what I wanted. I wanted them aligned to the middle here. That's better. Automatically aligns them, and it gives me the ability to distribute them evenly so that they are spaced evenly based on the kind of shape they are. So arranging gives you the ability to really, really look at distributing and moving objects around if you want to. So you have a lot of options for being able to work with that. And if you ever want to insert a picture, you can still go up to Media, and it gives you the option to insert a photo, music, from an image gallery, which is a set of images you've used with your slides, a web video from YouTube, or audio, a live video, or you can even take a photo or scan a document or add a sketch. So if I wanted to add a sketch, I'm going to click on Add Sketch, and it's going to say use your iPhone to add a sketch. What it's done on my phone already is it's brought up a blank screen just by clicking that. So now I can take my screen and I can draw on it, and I'm not going to do a very good job drawing, but I tap Done on my phone, and it inserted the sketch from my phone directly onto the image here. And so you can do this to create and do things. You would go to Media, and you'd go to Add Sketch, and then it automatically brings up the sketching screen. So if I want to sketch something square with an X in the middle in it, I tap Done, it inserts it. It's always going to put things in the middle, so you select them and you can move it around. So you can actually draw on your phone, use your phone as a touch screen, because remember, Macs don't have touch screens, but by using the Media and the touchscreen sketch function, you can do that. You can also scan documents, and it'll make your phone actually ask you to scan, or you have an iPad connected. Now, your phone and iPad have to be on the same network, but let's try taking a photo. Well, let's see, it opened up the photo here. I'm going to give myself a selfie here, say hi, and it'll insert the photo. And if I say use photo, it'll insert it here right away without me having to worry about using it in any other way. So I've got the ability to actually use my phone and my Mac together, or my iPad and my Mac together, in order to insert and manipulate objects if I want to. But I can do some other things too. I can go to shape here, and if I want to insert a clock, I can insert this clock, make it bigger, for example, and you'll notice that it covers up the sketch I did. Now, what I can do is I can align the objects. If I can see what I can do in terms of positioning objects. By right-clicking on that object, I can send it to the back. And so I can put this, the drawing I did, over the clock image if I want to. So otherwise things they'll typically be above or below, but you can actually alter that. Now, there is a way to align, to distribute objects, flip objects, align objects, but also you can position objects and view them in different ways if you want to bring an object front, forward. So if I move my photo here above the clock, say, gee, that's really not what I wanted to do. I wanted to have my photo behind the clock or the sketch in front of it. You can select the sketch, and then you can go to arrange and you can bring it forward. And if it's not forward all the way, you can bring it forward one step at a time if you want to. So you have the ability to do different things with these tools. There's a lot of tools to do it, but this is a way to just get some basic things done if you want to. And remember, this is a complete blank layout. So if we go to another slide, go to blank, I've got basically an entirely blank screen that I've got available. I can go back to inserting photos, and if I give my access here to this photo, it changes the vision of the photo. Now, this photo will give me a little bit of ways to adjust the style here. I can put a frame around it in different ways because it doesn't take up the whole screen, give it borders if I want to. And so this gives me the ability to take photos. And if I wanted to make a photo presentation about places that I was visiting, I could just create a blank slide and just continue to select photos or even videos. This is a short video that is in here, and it will actually play the video in a player here and show you what is happening. So you can insert videos as well. So it's a great way if you have photos. And then when you want to play the slideshow, you can play it full screen, or you can play it in what's called a window. Playing it in a window creates a little window here that we've got that gives us the ability to play it slide by slide, and we can alter it. But if I go back to the beginning here, it'll make more sense to play. So if I go to play in window, now I use my arrow keys, my down arrow key, and I can advance from one slide to another to make this work effectively. And when you get to the end, you just hit the escape button. You can play it overall. Now remember, this is all automatically being saved anytime we want to use it. Okay, so I think I've covered a lot about Keynotes that without going into anything too terribly complicated. I didn't want to get overly complicated today, but I wanted to make sure you understood it's there.